weird like teeth clench thing where he's like at the volleyball court and he's like, I don't know if you can hear that, but he's like chomp chomp chomp, and that's like supposed to be threatening instead of just like overtly homosexual.
They
And
did.
Top Gun was just like, it's not like it's a bad movie, but I remember watching it in the '90s and being like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Yeah,
Goose just died, and I don't give a shit. Who the fuck?
I really liked it, but that's because the second one is like actually a pretty good movie.
Everyone has said that. Japan is going crazy for the new Top Gun Maverick movie. It's just like the #1 movie in Japan, and they can't get enough of it. And I'm like, why?
One of our Japanese readers had tweeted something to the effect of, Top Gun, if you do not see it in IMAX, big disgrace.
That's funny. But we're not here to talk about Top Gun. Not like the last stream I did. We are here to talk about Common America, X Black Ops, X Soulfinder.
No,
Boo,
it's
let's
Black
talk about Top
Ops.
Gun.
It's Black Ops X Common America X Soulfinder.
I got it wrong.
It's
It has-
Soulfinder X Common America X Black Hawk.
I'm not your guy, friend.
You know, we do one more of these crossovers, we're gonna have 3 X's in there. We can do a triple X crossover. It's gonna be great.
Yes, they
That
had a
is
union.
awesome.
Triple X2.
Oh goodness, there's probably quite a few people that would enjoy that, a triple X crossover.
At this point, I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, movies can't get that bad. Now you just yearn for the days where they could be that good.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really impressive. I remember when Predator 2 was considered the bad Predator movie, and now we've had like 6 bad Predator movies, and Predator 2 is looking pretty good right now.
So, I was supposed to start with this trailer,
Oh, shit.
but I figured it was going to be really funny if we started with Top Gun. So I just want to play this trailer real fast.
Is it the trailer for Top Gun?
Yes, it is it's the trailer for Top Gun.
Let's do it.
It's a
Whoa,
fabulous
I didn't know
trailer.
Tom Cruise was Catholic. I thought he was like gay or something.
That trailer for Top Gun was really good.
Yeah, it's like really, really like and good music. Kenny Loggins.
His octave range is pretty high, but he still got it, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
Kenny
trailer.
Loggins in his choir boy face.
So where did that song come from?
So that was by Shalava. She's an independent musician out of Austin, Texas, and someone that we've known for about 2 years. She did our previous compositions for the Common America series, and so long story short, what happened one day was we're always trying to come up with these new ideas and stuff. And I just thought to myself, like, man, we're not going to really use her music again for probably another 2 years, because it's going to take another 2 years for like another saga to come out, and we'll change the music again. But then the thought occurred to me, because I said, we don't have that much Soulfinder stuff out. And we were eating at a casino buffet. I was with Mark, and the Goldfinger song played over the loudspeakers. That was like the background casino music. And so I had this idea, and I was driving home, and I called Doug, and I said, I think I figured it out. You ever think about maybe we're approaching it all wrong? The entire reason I never thought of Soulfinder having a theme song was I assumed that it would either be like a religious hymn or like something really horror related, both of which are kind of cliche. But what if we went in this route where it's like a political espionage theme song? And he and I were just on the same wavelength. He was like, dude, that's actually in my mind kind of how I conceive of it in my head. Like, that's how the action plays out. It's not a horror thing, and it's not necessarily 100% faith-based, somewhere kind of in the middle. So we approached Shilava, and we said, this is kind of the idea that we had. And she's just a natural savant when it comes to that. You just have to tell her, this is the mood that we're going for. And she's like, oh, you mean something like this? And then she'll just come up with the melody. So she nailed it. I mean, we didn't have any revisions to give her. She gave us 2 drafts, basically just like, here's where I am right now. And we said, yeah, that's great. And the final revision, and we said, perfect, let's just go with it. And then Doug loved it. And so he's actually doing something else with it I can't talk about right now, but that's going to be pretty exciting once he announces that here in a few months.
Always something you can't talk about. No, I really like the whole James Bond kind of feel to it.
Yeah, because some people don't know, but they think, like, when they think of Soulfinder and the general plot of like the combat exorcist thing, they think of one of 2 extremes. They think, oh, it's going to be like basically like a hardcore action type thing, or oh, it's like a hardcore horror type thing. It's like, not really. It's really somewhere in the middle. It's a tightrope that he walks between 2 genres, and I think that one is able to fit everything. It kind of encompasses the general mood of his storytelling.
Yeah. So I'm just going to be sharing some images on the screen while we talk. But,
Yeah.
It's a good image to share.
Yeah.
That's not haram.
Where's that? Go back to the other one real quick.
Yeah.
Non-haram one? Oh, you infidel.
Yeah, exactly. What is this? The genesis of this?
So that is, how do I put it? So
something you can't talk about yet, right?
No, we can't. We can. It's just a little bit complicated. So
Okay.
every year is Bell County Comic Con, and that's in Temple, Texas, and I think this is its 6th year going. But typically, what they do is they have ad sponsorships where people can pay for advertising money. So in the booklet that they get, they make 10,000 of these booklets with illustrations and stuff by the artists. And for the last 2 years, if you're like a top sponsor, then you get an illustration that is like Common America related. So it's basically a full page spread. So this is one for, I think we have 3 car companies who do like basically restorations, windows, and what's the other one? Like detailing. So this is one of them. So the artist is not me. It's actually Gisson, who we've been working with for the last 2 years. He's just fantastic. But this is the Racing Queen version of Common America.
Yeah, I think
it is really
there's a
nice.
few of them, and the pictures aren't in any particular order, so they'll just come up as they go. Just
Now, Tim is not telling you the whole truth. He commissioned 3 of those Race Queen Common Core pinups from Gosone, but there are 4 members of the Common Core, so one of them is not going to be represented. Tim, explain yourself.
So not all inclusive.
It is not all inclusive. We left out the person that everyone thinks is Russian, despite the fact that we've said several times that she's not Russian.
You left out my Eastern European princess?
I know, we did. We're gonna have to make up for it because that's the #1 request we get. They're like, we need more Misha art.
I love Misha.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do because she's in that tomboy trope, and I think that's like, I don't know, it's kind of all the rage nowadays.
Maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
She's feisty.
I like the angry Russian noises. It makes me happy.
Wait, are we
Thanks,
supposed to
Will.
like Russians now or hate them? I don't understand.
This is not a political channel, Mark.
Oh,
At least not
but I'm
yet.
so angry.
Yeah, we could turn it into a political channel, I guess.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, we brought you guys on to talk politics. So Roe v. Wade.
Oh, yeah. What do you guys think about that? Tim, you're a Catholic. Surely you have an opinion. Oh, okay.
So this is like the timeline.
Yeah, so I don't know who came up with the name The Commonality, but it's
Oh, gee, who was that?
It's a
great
really
name.
good name. Whoever
Some
it was,
jerk.
me.
I
It was
don't
me.
know.
some joik came up with the name The Commonality. But so the way you can think of it is this is kind of like the canon timeline. So the way we put it is it's hard to juggle a lot of the people who we hopefully will work with in the future because it's this idea of like what's canon, what's not canon. So basically anything that's in this timeline is considered canon. It's canonical to things that happen. And we
Okay,
take
so
it,
Soulfinder is part of the commonality universe. It's canon.
yes, it's part of our universe, but that doesn't mean that in the future, if Doug doesn't want to acknowledge anything that happens in our universe with his books, that's fine. So it doesn't have to be canon to him, but it's
Yeah.
canon to us. So
Yeah,
this
that's
is the timeline
really cool.
of events.
I know I've explained it in some streams before. I probably even explained it in one of yours, so I'm gonna bore everybody with my repetition real quick. But
Yay.
yay, repetition! Nap time.
Repetition is the mother of studies.
Very Jesuit of you.
So we view it like in the 80s, Marvel had G.I. Joe comics by Larry Hama and Transformers comics by Simon Furman. And they ran in a parallel universe where they were basically running right alongside each other, but their continuities only matched when they intersected for crossovers. So they would intersect for a crossover, and the G.I. Joes would blow up Bumblebee, and he'd get rebuilt as Goldbug, and then that would be canon to the Transformers comic, and then they'd go back their separate ways, and then they'd reconnect again for Generation 2. And in Generation 2, that Cobra rebuilt Megatron and in his tank body, and then they went back to their parallel universes. And then in Transformers, they blew up San Francisco, like nuked it off the face of the earth. But in G.I. Joe, San Francisco was fine and never got nuked. These books would cross over and their continuities would intersect. But what happened in Transformers when it wasn't a crossover didn't necessarily happen in G.I. Joe when it wasn't a crossover. They just sort of ran beside each other, would intersect, and they'd go their separate ways. And that's kind of how we view it, because like right now, Black Ops is actually crossing over with Rags by Brian Boland, starting with issue 8, and it's going to go on for several
Boland
issues.
is someone else.
Olin.
Brian Boland? Oh, yeah,
Brian
he's more
Boland
famous.
again?
I'm sorry. And he's a totally different color, but no.
You don't know
Yeah,
that.
by Brian Ball. I'm sorry. But yeah, Rags is currently crossing over with Black Ops, starting with issue 8, and I believe issue 9 was just premiered for people. And Rags can do its own thing. Black Ops can do its own thing. The continuities only match when they cross over. Same thing with this Common America versus Tomorrow Girl that Ben Dunn is doing over at Antarctic Press.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yep, that's another one. They sent us the script for review, and we reviewed everything that's impacted Carly, her voice, her continuity, her narrative. We made sure there's no discontinuity with Common America. But anything that Ben Dunn is doing with his Tomorrow Girl continuity is his own business and his own series. So we made sure that we don't step on his toes, he doesn't step on ours, and we have a nice crossover.
I'll give you some inside baseball. So I'm going to spoil some things here, but I don't think he's going to mind. So, for example, in the book, it involves like aliens who come to Earth, and they're like Amazonians or something, whatever. Some hijinks ensue. But one thing that we put into script notes is we said, there's a problem, and the problem is that in our universe currently, there are no aliens. Like, that's something that does, I mean, the world is fantastical, but there is no first contact. There's no concept that aliens exist. So the way we address it is we edited it where Carly doesn't believe they're aliens. She's just like, aliens? Like, no one believes in aliens. Like, that's not real. It's just, I don't know, some Hollywood actors pulling off a stunt or something. So that way we're able to rectify and correct our own canon so that when people ask, like, wait a minute, like, if you decide one day to introduce aliens, like how in the world are they acting surprised? Carly already encountered them in this crossover. It's like she did, but if you remember, she didn't believe in them. So that's how we address it. We take the whole crossover thing pretty seriously because one thing that we want to do is we want to avoid parallel universes. Like they just don't exist at all. There's no Earth 2 Carly running around out there. But the second thing is that we want the crossovers to matter so that when it occurs, it's something that actually happened and not something that we just wrote off as like, that was like good times, but there's no repercussions or anything.
There is no multiverse.
No, there is no multiverse at all. It does not exist. No chance. Not true.
I mean, it's actually like a really cool way that you guys have that set up. It's definitely a lot less confusing than like Dragon Ball continuity.
You follow that? You follow that, don't you?
And...
Yeah, I do.
Because they have a multiverse now, don't they?
They do. But like it's like that part's fine, but it's really more like
the movies and how the movies sometimes count and sometimes they don't.
Well, these movies that they're doing now count, but then there's like the continuity of like the manga versus like the TV show. And like that's all like up in the air because things happen in the manga that don't happen in the TV show.
I know, it gets really crazy because like there's the manga and there's the TV show that has a whole bunch of filler, but then you cut out the filler, but then you've also got the movies, and the movies don't count, except sometimes it doesn't make any sense when they don't count, like the one where they explain where Trunks got his sword, but that movie doesn't count, so the Trunks has a sword in the TV show, but you don't know where it came from, and then there's Dragon Ball GT, which doesn't count, but then there's Dragon Ball Super, but then there's that one Dragon Ball Super movie that, you know, that they couldn't get the rights to from Fox, so they had to retell the whole movie story in the TV show, and it's like, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, that part, like, because, there are the Dragon Ball Super movies, but, like, only Broly counts as, like, canon, because
But Broly was in 3 movies before, but those movies don't count. Only there's one new
Bio
Broly
Broly just doesn't count as a movie at all.
It's like me trying to explain the Halloween franchise continuity to someone who just thinks like, oh yeah, it's like 12 movies, and they all just like go into each other as a 12-part series. Like, oh no, like there's 12 movies, but 7 different continuities, and some of those movies have different alternate cuts that lead into different movies, and one movie is a standalone movie, except it might lead into another movie, but only as an Easter egg. And like, oh god, no.
No, it did. Yeah, it's
way
crazy.
Too confusing.
So I like the way that you guys have it set up because, like, it is a little like it's still like it takes some like thought process to follow, but it's like the least confusing way that I've like heard explained for like.
Well,
the other thing too is that we
not read stuff too. If that's if you find.
All right, raise your hand if you're illiterate. Who in here is illiterate?
But you know what I mean. I mean, like if I don't read Ben Dunn's comic, I'm not completely lost when I'm going back into.
Correct.
No, and that's kind of my way when, like, I didn't read every single Marvel comic that came out, in the 90s, and I was reading X-Men. So if, like, Thor showed up in X-Men, there was enough context for me to know who Thor was. I didn't have to go and read 500 issues of Thor to understand who he was and where he came from. And so, like, when Common America shows up in Tomorrow Girl, people who are just Tomorrow Girl readers and Ninja High School readers, they know who Common America is because there's enough context. And people who just follow Common America, they'll know who Tomorrow Girl is from enough context.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. That's what all I meant, Tim, and I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, that's okay. I was
Tim, a woman is talking.
I know. I felt like that dude in that Beavis and Butthead in the new movie, where it's like, Aisha, I'll take over from here. Like, white privilege. No, what I was gonna say was basically what Mark just said is that you can read any of our titles independently and you'll know what's going on. If you don't want to read Black Ops, that's fine, because when we introduce characters from that into Common America, we introduce them as if they have never existed outside of there, and they're appearing to the reader for, I guess, the first time. So we give you enough detail so you just know who they are. And people seem to like that. I don't hear people reading it and saying like, "Oh, I got to volume 5, but I'm confused. Like, who's this guy supposed to be?" It's like, no, he exists in another book. Oh, he does? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, I just thought he was an ancillary character that just popped up.
Yeah, I really like this drawing.
everyone seems to like Kimiko.
Kimiko, yeah,
Miko's cute.
Sometimes I wonder if she's the least popular character, and sometimes I wonder if she's the most popular character. I mean, she exists in some sort of like Schrodinger's popularity context, where she's either like a 1 or a 10 and nothing in between.
The Japanese really like her because I think the
Yeah, I was
Japanese.
gonna ask that.
Yeah, the Japanese. They. I'm trying to say this politely. How do I put it? They like. It's almost like they like positive stereotypes. I put out this tweet like a few days ago, and it got a lot of traction. But I retweeted someone else's art and then put our up, and it said, "Be the United States that the Japanese think you are." And you'll find that those tend to be characters that are insanely popular. Like, for example, in My Hero Academia, you have the character of All Might, and in his backstory, it's like he is Japanese, but he lived in America, came back to Japan, but he basically took everything he learned from America with him, and so he's like this muscular dude wearing red, white, and blue, and super patriotic, and that kind of overt stereotype, that over the topness, is something that they find intriguing and funny. And in a way, when Mark writes Kimiko, she's kind of a pseudo representative of the Japanese student who's trying her best and is always polite about it, even though she is failing constantly. And I think that's resonated with a lot of people because, like, in a lot of Japanese media, you have people who bomb and fail and stuff like that, and they feel like they're miserable and stuff. But culturally, they always try to keep their spirits up, and they don't want to be a burden on anyone. They are always trying to do better every time, and I think they like that because it resonates with them. So I've noticed that there's a big wide gap between like people, they like Common America because she's the main character, but they like Kimiko because in a way she's almost like their cultural representative.
We started a Japanese Common America account about 2 weeks ago, and it's already like gotten about 1,500 Japanese followers just in the 2 weeks since we started it.
Wow.
So it's at like
Wow.
3,000 followers now. And the Japanese are just, it's amazing how many more followers you can get from a country when you just suddenly start speaking their language. But the Japanese followers, they're really interested, even though we haven't released the Japanese translations of Common America yet. We're actually working on them to be released later this year. But they're actually reading the books in English, and they're using this thing called Google Lens, where you take your phone and you hover it over English text, and it automatically translates to Japanese, like really crude Japanese, but it'll translate. And they're putting forth that much effort to try and read our book, which let us know that, hey, maybe we should release, official Japanese professional translations of these books so they can read them. But the conversations they have and the insights they have in our characters just from their different perspectives are very interesting. They're talking about Kimiko, and they focus a lot on the fact that Kimiko is a student, and she gets bad grades, but not because she's stupid, but because she's studying the wrong subject. And so, like, Kimiko's origin is that she wants to be a radiologist, so she wants to go to medical school and study skeletons, but she can't get into medical school. She keeps failing the entrance exams. But she's actually really smart in other things. She speaks completely fluent English. She's really good at marketing. We had that, I think, in Volume 3 where her dad tells her about that. She's really good at logistics and getting supplies. That was a part of Volume 5, things like that, for and planning a bunch of the Common Core appearances and shows. She's actually very good at performing for shows. She's good at all these things, but she doesn't recognize that she's good at them because the one thing she wants to do, she's bad at, which is be a radiologist and get into medical school. So she overlooks all of her positive traits. And the Japanese, when they were giving us commentary on Kimiko, they were saying that they found that very, approachable and very understandable. That you can be good at 10,000 things, but if you're failing at the one thing that means the most to you, it feels like you're failing at everything, and that's kind of Kimiko's character.
Yeah, no, it is relatable for sure. I think that's like relatable no matter where you're from, because that is kind of how it feels when you want to do one specific thing and you can't.
Do you remember that episode? Do you watch South Park, Dean?
I used to.
Do Do you remember that episode where Kyle wanted to be a basketball player?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That
Yeah.
one's great.
Tim, no.
We're not gonna go there.
too.
but basically, that's the gist of it. Is it's like, you know, I always feel like I wanted to be. I know I'm a basketball player on the inside. Like, what can I do? It's like, well, you are a basketball player on the inside, and
But only on the inside.
And then his
So-
dad was a dolphin.
and his dad was a dolphin. That's right. And so it's interesting. Kind of, I don't know. There's sometimes when that show can be somewhat prophetic, but the theme is that sometimes your desire to be something doesn't reflect necessarily your capabilities, and that's hard because you have to reconcile it. It means that you either are in an endless pursuit of it, and if you get it, if you attain your ambition, it's going to be definitely like your life's goal, or you're just going to fail. And you have to come to the realization that the thing that you've wanted the most is like really not within your grasp. And I think that that's a very, not an admirable trait, but it's something that everyone can empathize with.
Yeah.
There's only one movie that I think really tackled that subject, and everybody hated it. I think because it tackled that subject and it didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. It was Monsters University, of all movies. And if you've ever seen that one, it's Mike Wazowski wants to be a scarer, but he's cute. And no matter what he does, he cannot scare children because he's adorable. No matter how much he studies, no matter how many A's he gets on his tests, he's cute and can't scare children. And so he just has to accept that at the end of the movie. But he finds out that he's also really good at being a coach. And so he goes through to a different aspect of his career and finds that the thing that he's really good at and was overlooking the whole time. And I think that Monsters University has a really complex and interesting moral to it that absolutely no one wanted to hear because it wasn't what they wanted to hear.
There's a second thing about that movie that is a really good lesson, and it's what happens after he finds out that he can't scare anyone because he's just not a scary creature. It's like, so are we still gonna be at the university? And they're like, no, you're expelled. It's like, oh crap. And so it's like, what do we do? Like, we still want to be involved. And it's like, I have an idea. It's just a montage of them like working in the mailroom and then working as like janitors and then working as something else. And they basically work their way up the ladder. And so they're able to accomplish these kind of blue collar goals as they go up to make it to that point. And I think that was a great moral because it's like, hey, just because you don't go to college doesn't mean that you're a failure. Like there are tried and true ways of being successful in life that don't require either the complete fulfillment of your ambition or necessarily taking the route that everyone tells you to take. You can take another route as well.
Yeah, I think a good lesson to learn, even though it sounds shitty to say, is you have to live within like reason. Like some goals aren't achievable. You know, I hate to say it, but like
I thought you were going to quote Homer Simpson.
no. What's the quote?
It's like, what is it, Mark? It's like, he's talking to Bart and he's like, the moral of the story is never try.
Yeah, like the important thing is you tried and you failed horribly. The moral is never try. But it's like, you know, the person who wants to be a ballerina, but they're in a wheelchair because they were born paralyzed from the waist down. And, you know, maybe they'll go on stage and they'll kind of like spin around in their chair and everyone will give them pity claps. But, you know, it's kind of like, geez, this is really sad. Like, you're not a ballerina, that kind of thing. It's like no one wants to say it. No one wants to say it. But, you know, they're all kind of thinking that like, oh, gee whiz, how do I tell her?
Ableist of you, Mark.
Yeah, I know, right? It's kind of like that. It's like if you have like Parkinson's disease, you're not going to be a surgeon. You know, you're probably not even going to win like the Hasbro's Operation, you know, finalist, you know, playing that game. It's like, I'm sorry, if you've got something that debilitates you and you can't do it, then you can't do it. That was the lesson from that South Park episode that Tim brought up. It's like, sorry, Kyle, you may want to be a basketball player, but you're only like 3 feet high and you're Jewish. It's just not going to happen.
So
Yeah.
When did you guys start talking with Douglas about this crossover?
I think it was actually back in October. We had broached the subject fairly early on, just in casual conversation. It's like, man, could you imagine a day when our things would team up? And essentially, we all agreed. We said, well, that's kind of a pie in the sky idea, because one thing that we've learned from observing others is you do not launch a crossover after your property has just launched, because the crossover in essence is the pulling together over years of doing it so that people are familiar with the characters and so they're anticipating it to some extent. The second thing too was that tonally and genre wise they're just completely different. Like Common America is a kind of a tokusatsu genre. Black Ops is military action. Soulfinder, military action with obviously a little bit of the faith element thrown in. So none of these seem to congeal well. It's like water and chocolate. They don't seem like things that would work out. But one thing that Mark and
There's
I
a
had
man who never drank a Yoo-hoo in his life.
I love Yoo-hoo, but that's a separate subject.
You need to go for an egg cream.
I like those too. I like what is it? Like Ovaltine, Nutella, like anything that remotely is connected to something sweet. I love. But one thing that
ignore me, please continue on your train of thought.
One thing that Mark and I had always agreed on was that we should populate our stories with enough background material that there is some plot thread that we can pull at. So one thing that we did is, for example, in Common America, kind of the MacGuffin, the thing that people are either after or that's remained mysterious is chimeratons. In Black Ops, we reintroduced it, but we have our MacGuffins are almost all mythological or legendary. And so where everything had to come together was we introduced Hair Trigger in Volume 2, and we always knew she was going to be a good guy. That was going to happen at some point down the road. That was something we had already planned. But we said, we have to introduce a spiritual element because I think we can make it happen. At some point, we can do a Soulfinder crossover. So in Volume 2 and Volume 3, she gets the hand of St. Columba, and it's attached to her by the end of the events of last year's crossover. And that set the stage for Soulfinder. So when Doug was in town for a convention, we had a little dinner, and I said, we want to do it, and we're going to pitch it to you. Here's how I think it will work. So we pitched it to him, and he said, no, I have complete faith in you. Like, I think we can pull it off. So Mark took about 2 weeks. He and I hammered out the script. I gave him kind of a linchpin idea where I think it would all connect together. We gave it to him, and he was basically like, I don't even know what I have to edit here. Like, it works like 100%. So that was it. And immediately, like within less than a week of getting that script, I started it, and we finished it in early January of this year. Speaking of which, I got the proofs in for Volume 6, everyone. I got them in today. The printer... Yeah, the printer was like, hey, guess what? The assembly line is working faster than usual, so here's your proofs. And he said, when do you want the books? I said, geez, that campaign doesn't launch until like September, but we'll take them right now. If you can send them in the next like 2 weeks, we'll gladly put them in the warehouse.
Dude, that's actually really awesome, because that'll get like fulfilled like
super quick.
Yeah,
that'll be a short campaign though, because we want to make sure and avoid what happened last year, and hopefully we can get everything out way before the holiday season. So maybe the week after Thanksgiving is our target. So that'll be a tiny, tiny campaign.
Yeah,
we plan a lot of our story threads out like well in advance, and I know a lot of people who read Common America, the very first saga, volumes 1 through 4. A lot of the feedback we got was that when they went back and they read the omnibus, which was 1 through 4 combined into a single storyline, they were really impressed with how all the story threads from volume 1 to volume 4 all coalesced organically together. And a lot of that is planning, and some of that is just dumb luck. And that's also good too, is that when you see an opening, when you go back and you reread your own volumes and you see like, ooh, I can do something with this that can connect to this that I hadn't anticipated. And sometimes, you're very fortunate. So when we decided to do the Soulfinder crossover, we had this character that we introduced in Common America 2 named Father Blatty. And he's named after William Peter Blatty, the author of The Exorcist. And that was originally just a placeholder name because he was Catholic, and I just needed the first Catholic name I could think of, and it was William Peter Blatty. And we ended up not changing it, so he just became Father Blatty. But we had no intention of that meaning anything. And then we decided to do the Soulfinder crossover in several volumes later. And so we're like, ooh, like those are combat veteran exorcists. What if? And so the very first crossover that we have, that's kind of a teaser for what we're doing right now, was Father Crane of the Soulfinders appears in the backup story and talks to Father Blatty, and it's revealed that Father Blatty, surprise, surprise, is a former Soulfinder, a combat veteran exorcist, and he's tied into that series. And that's going to actually get exploited more in the Soulfinder books. But that was a happy accident, you know. We had a character named after the author of The Exorcist who we didn't intend to actually be an exorcist and a Soulfinder, and then it just kind of worked out that way, and it just works out really intuitively.
Yeah. No, that's kind of brilliant. It's awesome that worked.
They do look kind of sexy for a bunch of women working for the Catholic Church, I must say.
Oh, but they don't work for the Catholic Church. They work for the government. I'm not saying that the government is sexy, so please.
Well, definitely not. But yeah,
no, they're
I
definitely
get turned
not.
on at the DMV.
Oh, Jesus, Dean. Of course you would.
Maybe in California, but not where we live. That's for sure.
Oh,
you don't
definitely
know.
not in California. Oh, no.
I mean,
No.
you underestimate my ability to get turned. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, make me wait longer, honey. Oh, yeah.
I'm really sadistic. I like being tortured, but like
Dean,
not pain wise. Just
now, Dean, people know you live in California, right?
Yeah.
That's common knowledge. Okay, so
Yeah.
when I was a
common
kid,
knowledge.
common knowledge. It's a commonality that people know you live in California.
I mean, you doxed me, Tim. Damn it. No.
There was when I was growing up, everything I knew about California was from obviously the media, like the TV shows I watched, games. I remember like I had this Nintendo game called California Games, and it was like a dude in like swim shorts and a chick wearing leg warmers and rollerblades, and so you're like, oh man, it's like where all the beautiful people live. So I went to California almost a decade ago, and let me just say, it was not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There's some people there who were pretty and attractive, but
of course.
The whole
it depends
idea of,
on where you are. If you go down to, like around Huntington Beach, and Malibu.
Yeah, but I mean, they make like Venice Beach look like it's just nothing but like muscle men and like bathing beauties, and then you go there and it's just a whole bunch of fat people in thongs and a bunch of weird.
It used to be that way. Like it used to be.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, and then when I was finally old enough to go there, I was like, oh man, well this is ruined.
I went to L.A. and I rode the bus everywhere, and it was.
Oh, that'll kill any impression that you might have.
Yeah, and in San Francisco, I took the BART, and it was like, wow, I've ridden metros all around, Europe and in like DC.
Did it smell like pee?
Yeah, it smelled like pee. And
I
always thought I was gonna get shanked. Like there were always people like mumbling to themselves.
Oh yeah, no, the BART is like it just sucks, man. It just sucks.
It used to be really, really nice. Like when it first was first built, and then, but right before I left California for the first time, it was just starting to go downhill. And
it was never meant to like transport. It was never meant to transport so many people. Like it just wasn't built for it.
Like the whole time I was in high school, it was still really nice. And
I was in San Francisco for about 3 days when I was about 11 years old. And I had very fond memories because I remembered how clean it was. It was pristine.
Nope.
And I just remember thinking to myself, like, again, a decade ago when I went back, I was like, man, I can't wait to go back because I remembered how neat it was. I thought it was going to be like San Diego in terms of like how clean and pristine it was. And it was kind of nightmarish. It reminded me of, I went to St. Louis about 7 years ago, and I'd made several trips as a child and as a teenager. And I remember like Union Station in St. Louis was hopping. I mean, it was like a kind of a mall, and it was always busy 24/7 from the time the mall opened to the time it closed. And I went there, and it was a ghost town, and there was no one there except maybe 5 people in the whole shopping area. And of the 5 people, like I think 2 of them were homeless and were like panhandling or something. And it's just crazy. Like when you look at how the demographics of a place changes, like you'd think that these places would stay the same forever, but I mean, no, there's a lot of changes in both like the economy and the culture and whatnot.
Yeah, New
Yeah.
York City. I mean, I like all my life as a kid, I wanted to visit New York City because that's where all the movies and TV shows and comic books took place, you know. And I finally got to visit in 2006, and it was actually still pretty good in 2006. I had a really good time. And, you know, I went and I took photos of like every place from Ghostbusters that I recognized, every building I recognized, and I had a really fun time. And Tim, when did you go to New York for New York City Comic Con and you had like the absolute worst time of your entire life and it was just a miserable experience?
2015. Now,
Ooh.
I thought you were gonna give a different story. So what I heard was there are two places where like apparently things improved, and supposedly one was New York and the other one was Washington D.C. My dad went to D.C. one time, and it was back in like 1978. And every time I'd want to go to DC, he said no. Like I went to go there in '78, and there were prostitutes everywhere. It was one of the most disgusting cities I've ever been to. But I told him, like at that first time when I had met you in DC, I was like, it's clean, like it's fairly safe, at least for tourists to walk around in the daytime. And my dad told me the same thing happened in New York with Times Square. Apparently, it was bad until like Giuliani came and basically cleaned up Times Square and made it hospitable to tourists again.
Yeah. Meanwhile, San Francisco has like
Gotten
literal
worse.
shit like everywhere. I stepped in human feces once. It
Oh,
was awful.
sick.
I know. I had
Could
to
have been
throw away
worse. You
those
could have
shoes.
stepped in the used syringes that the government hands out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got pretty bad. And
I-
fortunately for me, it got worse after I left. So.
Yeah, well, it was still fun. Like, because when I was like a teenager, San Francisco was still fine, right? Like, I mean, it was going like downhill, but that's what made it fun,
Mhm.
you know. But then, like now, it's just like I don't even go to the city. Like, I won't.
It's
I
not like
love-
Full House, like the opening of Full House.
No, it's exactly like that. But there's shit everywhere, and syringes and homeless people.
It's like it's called Nob Hill. It's the one where like
That's where all the rich people live.
yeah where
And there are no homeless people or shit in the streets. And
that's what I was thinking. I was like, it's like
Yeah.
Nob Hill where it's like a slip and slide, but it's just human feces going down. Like
Oh, you're thinking of that's Lombard Street.
Lombard, yeah, with the
Yeah,
diagonal
it's the actual
street.
Oh yeah, that street is really cool.
I think they closed it to traffic at some point too. I love this.
I don't think you can drive down it anymore.
Yeah, I love this pinup of Hair Trigger.
Yeah, that's by Jeff Spokes. He's a great artist. If anyone listening, if you find him on Instagram, he's a hidden gem. I found him just by perusing Instagram for various artists, and his work just popped up. When I first saw it, I thought he was Adam Hughes. I was like, oh, Adam Hughes is here. And I looked and I said, oh, it's Jeff Spokes. And he had done some work for Blade Runner, for, I think, Aphrodite 9. There's some other properties that he's worked on. But he's great. He's very easy to work with. He redesigned Hair Trigger. Someone was asking because Kafun a few days ago put out a piece and her feet are exposed. And they're like, what? This doesn't make any sense. And I said, no, if you look at the original art, she was designed with visible feet. They're supposed to be like Vibram shoes, I guess. Now, in the book, I did redesign it because I personally didn't like the design, so I changed it to heels. But I posted on Instagram and on Twitter, and the comment I kept on getting was feet.
Weird.
I was
A lot
like,
of
oh.
feet weirdos around.
Yeah,
There
apparently.
are. I know. It's crazy.
That's just a like I can understand, most, but like feet?
Do you? I know it's not a political thing, but do you guys read Stone Toss, the comic?
No,
On
what's it about?
occasion, yeah.
It's just a guy who does some hot takes with political cartoons and stuff, pseudo political cartoons. I mean, he's just essentially just commenting on whatever is being talked about that day. But
Mhm.
he had one cartoon where these two guys are shaking hands, and one guy, like, he has a T-shirt and it says like boobs, and then the other guy's shaking his hand and says like butts, and then they shake hands and then they look over to the corner and you don't see what they're looking at, but you can tell they're not happy. And it's just this guy who looks like really deformed, and he's like, "Hi guys, I want to shake your hand," and his shirt says feet.
That's accurate.
And then and then there was this other one. Mark, you're gonna have to correct me on this, but so it was basically like food chains. Like people were saying like, oh, it would be
Oh,
nice if we
yeah.
had like goth IHOP or like tomboy Outback or something. And someone's like, oh yeah, and then over here we're gonna have like feet Papa John's.
Yeah, it's like feet
Gross.
Applebee's. It's like
Gross.
Gross.
That hurt my feelings because I like Papa John's.
that's okay. I'm eating Little Caesars tonight, so what do I know?
Oh, that is. I'd rather eat at Feed Applebee's.
2 pizzas for $14 in this economy?
I stole this one from my Twitter avatar.
Oh, did you?
By the way, yeah, I always change it up every time you guys have a new campaign. I've picked a different picture of Vicki from my avatar.
Yeah,
He
so
did a
for
really
all the
good-
people.
He did a really good job on it because one thing that I think he had read the material I gave him, and the idea was from the very beginning we knew she was going to be the bad guy, but we said it had to be believable in the sense that you had kind of this. There was a lot of things hidden about her, so she might look mousy in like the first 3 volumes, but when you realize that she's been this bad guy, she has to pull it off. Where basically, as her name suggests, it's a masquerade. Like she's actually like kind of a really beautiful person, and so he definitely like rolled with it. I mean, changed her hairstyle, so it reflected more of her short hair that she's had when she's not in disguise. Kept her glasses, so that he basically kept the essential design but redesigned the top. He gave her more cleavage. and,
Yes, he did.
and I think the funny thing is, so we've only gotten to question I think once, but some people have been asking about it. They're like, is that addressed in the book? The fact that there's a priest who's hanging out with 2 women who are dressed kind of weird? And the answer is yes. It's actually addressed in the script because we're not tone deaf. Like we know that that's weird.
And it fits with Vicky's character because when Vicki is going on her big woe is me tirade in volume 4, one of the things she complains about is that Carly gets to go out and be beautiful all the time, and Vicki is so envious of Carly. And so when she gets to design her own outfit to go on her own missions in Black Ops Volume 5, it's this beautiful outfit for this beautiful woman. And so she's kind of starting to come into her own and realize her own dreams as herself, and that she's got the confidence to go out and be Vicki instead of Vermilion Masquerade, and she gets to be beautiful as Vicki. Even if it's a covert military commando operation and no one can see her, it's kind of like baby steps. But for all the people who liked Vicki in volumes 1 through 4 and want to see her redemption arc and what she does next, then you're going to want to check out Black Ops Volume 5, Black Ops X Soulfinder, because that's Vicki's next phase in her storyline.
Redemption arc.
Yay!
Maybe. Yay!
Maybe we're not going to spoil it for anyone.
I kind of like having her be a villain. It made me kind of happy.
I think the funny thing about her is that I don't even like it'll be hinting at kind of things that happen in the book and in the future. I don't know if for either of the characters, if we're looking at full redemption where they essentially become like nuns, there will always be, I think, there'll always be there's a part of their character that made them do bad things, and I think that will not go away. But there's an outlet for it where you can redirect it in a way that's good. So
yeah,
I mean,
Dexter.
like I don't think not quite as bad as Dexter, but yeah, you get the gist. Man, Dean, I couldn't stomach that show. That was wild.
It's good though. Like it's one of those shows. I didn't watch like the last season, maybe the last 2. But like it's one of those shows where like I can usually binge watch shows when I watch them. Granted, I don't watch anything anymore. But that's a show where like I really like it. But like it's so like it makes my anxiety go off to where I can only watch like an episode before I'm like, I gotta change this. But I want to watch it.
There was only one show that I can actually say I binged. In other words, like binge. Like we're talking like 15 episodes in one sitting if I had the time. Normally when I do quote unquote binge, it's like 3 episodes and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go do something else. But my dad had just retired and he found this thing called Netflix and he found out that I had an account. So he would come over and be like, hey, let's watch Netflix. I'm like, Dad, like I have some stuff to do. And he's like, no, let's watch. And it was Breaking Bad. And
oh yeah.
I was addicted to that. I mean, like I think we did every season in less than like 3 days. I mean, it was wild. I was going to sleep at like 5 a.m. and just
No,
going to work with only like 2 hours of sleep because I couldn't stop watching it.
It is really good. Yeah, Breaking Bad's one of those shows that
But
you like have to.
I compared to Dexter because thematically it's almost the same. You have criminals essentially, and they find outlets for it and they try to justify it. In the case of Dexter, though, it is not a slow roll. You know what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a pretty bad guy. Whereas with
Yeah.
Walter White is definitely slow. There's parts of it where there's a lot of nuance, and you're thinking to yourself, like, is he going to commit to it? Is he going to be a drunk
Yeah.
kingpin?
There's like there is like a very like it's like a journey with Walter White, like him becoming that. But like with Dexter, just right off the bat, the dude's just a fucking serial killer.
Yeah, he has the whole like the dark passenger mentality or whatever.
Yeah,
Alter
it's
ego.
not like he like becomes a serial killer like over time, like and he's trying to justify it. Like he's justified it, and he is one. It's right off the bat.
It didn't help
Brutal.
that he had. I think it's his sister. His sister is played by this actress who played Emily Rose
Mhm.
in the movie,
Yeah.
and I always thought she had a weird face, like a really
She
weird
does.
face.
She does kind of have a weird face.
And in the show, like there's some weird thing between him and his sister too. It was really unnerving.
Yeah, there really is a weird thing. I think that's like expanded upon more, like later too. So, yeah, that is weird.
Those of us with weird faces are very offended right now.
Yeah, Mark's got a weird face. He's growing a beard. It's so gross.
Is it to cover up the weird face, Mark?
It is.
No.
Yeah, I stole this one for my thumbnail.
Oh, nice.
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this one.
Indeed. I like
Not many
it.
people noticed there was a rabbit in the background.
I did notice the rabbit. I left all 4 panels, even. Yeah.
He's
That's
a
cool.
demon rabbit. He's got horns.
The demon rabbit.
Yeah.
The
I like this
Baphomet
one.
rabbit.
This one's nice.
What makes
Very
it nice,
cool
Dean?
art.
You tell me.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Dean likes
It's
the
pleasant.
boobies.
He likes the boobies, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not the man that's there. That's not what I was attracted to. It's the boobies.
Well, so Sylvia, Common Victory, she plays a really big role in this volume, and I think a lot of people have started to like her. So we introduced her in Volume 2 of Common America as kind of like a rival for Carly, and then by the end of Volume 3, she and Carly kind of became friends, and then in Volume 4, she joined the team. But we've expanded her a lot more in the web series on webtoons, and I think that's where she's gaining a lot of her fandom, because that's where we've really explored her being like a video gamer and her more like personal stuff, and her failings as a person kind of. And so she's been building up a fan base over there. So if anybody out there, likes Sylvia, she's actually one of the main stars in the crossover, and I had a lot of fun writing her in this one. That's kind of where I got to do the most Sylvia as a script writer was in this volume.
Sorry, Hargrave made me giggle. They're okay, but they're no Amaranth.
Do you guys know who Amaranth is?
No.
No, that sounds like a drink.
She's
Is it a...
Twitch streamer.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
One of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like
Someone
the
was
biggest
asking
on
us, like,
She's
when
like
when
the
is Common
biggest one.
Victory? Yeah, they're asking, when is Common Victory going to be a VTuber with her own little animated avatar, like Corona and Guart and all them? And I'm like, I don't know. As soon as one of us is a girl and we can do that, because it'd be kind of weird if it's a dude.
That would just be the internet. There are no women on the internet.
No,
Oh,
it's just
yeah, I
a bunch
forgot.
of dudes and FBI agents.
Yep.
Yep. That's exactly it.
I saw this funny. I think someone got it from 4chan, but it was like, man, I was talking to this 12-year-old girl, and we were getting into it, and she told me that she was an undercover officer, and I was like, that's so cool you were able to do that at 14.
That's hilarious.
Dean, would you put up that last picture that I sent you that wasn't part of the group?
Yeah. Give me a second.
Okay. All right. Because I had a question about this.
Ooh,
As soon as Dean pulls it up.
Yeah, it's gonna take a second.
Because
okay.
Dean's slow. He's boomerang.
I am slow.
He is.
I'm
He
very
can't help
slow.
it. We're trying. We're trying really hard.
I'm not trying.
You guys were on time today.
Yeah.
Yes, we're turning over a new leaf.
I like it. No, I like that when you guys were slow.
Yeah.
Leave them in suspense.
Well, Dean
All
was an hour late last time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's slow even by Dean standards.
I can be slower, guys. You guys are fine. I'll be slower next time. Huh?
This is why you
That'll
get off
show
at the
you.
DMV. You really are into being slow.
So, Common Academy.
Yeah,
Is that what
Common
this
Academy.
is?
That is.
Yeah. Tell
We
us
announced
about
that
it.
one. We announced that one yesterday. So the webtoon series will officially end, I think, in 6 weeks if our timing is correct. So we have bookended it. It's going to conclude there. It will automatically spin off into a new series, so you don't have to wait. It'll be the following week, same account but on a different series. It'll be Common Academy. It'll be brand new and it will be offered in 2 languages, English and Japanese. So we've already started work on it, on the Japanese translation. Now people have been asking, they're like, wait a minute, like, are they back in high school? It's like, yes, but there's a twist to it. Now remember, we don't do alternate realities, we don't do time skips or anything. So we actually address it in continuity. There's actually a reason why they're in high school. And people will just have to wait and find out, because we're going to reveal why here in the next 5 weeks. It's actually the concluding arc of the web series. But we're actually hitting three birds with one stone. We're book ending and capping off the web series. We're starting Common Academy. The third thing is it does tie into what happens in the events of Common America Volume 5 through at least 8 or 9. So there is a reason why they're in school and why things look a little bit different. But we announced that yesterday, and we were really happy with the reception. People seem to be really excited about it. The Japanese readership went nuts. I mean, they were like writing to us and saying how much they were looking forward to it. The best part about it is that it is not going to be burdened by continuity. So if you read it from episode 1, it is essentially a brand new story. You don't have to know anything about the previous book or any of the tie-ins to know what's happening. Mark is really good at doing that. I mean, it is kind of difficult sometimes, but it is written in a way where you can piecemeal it. I think outside of the web series, you can pretty much read anything in our library and get a gist of it. The web series, I think there's a lot of it that is kind of dependent on foreknowledge of things that have happened before, but not this. This is going to be completely new. People who read Common America will enjoy it, and people who have not read it will like this version 100%, just because it's going to be more of a slice of life story than a lot of the heroics that happen in the main book.
I do
think it
like
was-
slice of life stories.
Oh, I love them. They're my favorite. Dean, I think it's because we're getting old, but that's like all I watch now is slice of life.
Have you
Dean's
seen
not-
that one? Yeah, I'm not old.
He's
I
not
haven't
getting
watched
old.
it yet. I'm not old like you, old man.
I know.
But no, I'm
Dean,
sorry.
when I was your age,
But,
and I was in San Francisco, it was very
the
different.
streets weren't covered in shit.
I'm not talking about that, Dean. You know what I'm talking about.
But
Yeah, you think of that Family Guy where they're talking to that one old gay man. He's just like when I was your age, we were so gay they used to call us pole fancies, and it wasn't your soft sort of gay that you have now. People got hurt back then.
I haven't seen it yet, but have you seen that one anime? It's like about cooking.
Which one?
There's
There's
a
like 3
few
of them.
about cooking.
It's like a cooking competition show.
Because there's Food Wars. That's
Yeah,
a big
Food
one.
Wars.
Yeah. That one's kind of pornographic, Dean. I don't
Is
watch
it?
that.
I haven't
I saw-
seen it,
Okay.
but I've heard.
So in the first episode, I had to stop because there's no nudity or anything like that. So nothing explicit. But Mark told it to me. He said that it's kind of this genre where it's called non-battle anime. So it's basically like they take something mundane, but they animate it and they draw it in a way where it looks more exciting than it really is. Like, for example, he's watching Bakuman right now, which is just about making manga. That's the whole anime. But the way they make it exciting is when they show the guy drawing. I mean, they use a lot of like close-ups and flourishes, and he's drawing at like lightning speed. Well, in Food Wars, there's a scene in the very first episode where like this girl wants to like seize this guy's, I don't know, like hibachi restaurant. And so he's like, if I make the best like stir-fried rice you've ever had, will you agree to leave me alone for another month? And she's like, yeah, but you're not going to do it. And so he makes this stirred fried rice, gives it to her, and in her mind she's like fantasizing and like moaning, and like her clothes blow off or something. And so that's how they visually you know, you have Ratatouille where they visually represent it with like musical notes, and then the Japanese have clothes blowing off. But that's how they make it exciting, you know, and some people think that's funny and they like it. I had to quit watching after that episode, but and some of the other cooking ones I've seen, Sweetness and Lightning is really good. It's about a guy
I think one that's maybe a bit more understandable to people is like the Phoenix Wright video games, where it's just like, you know, two people like in court, you know, a lawyer versus a lawyer, like pleading their cases to a judge, but it looks like a Yu-Gi-Oh battle where it's like, like I play habeas corpus, and like and it's like the other lawyer's being like sentenced to the shadow zone or whatever, you know, and it's like this big exciting thing when it's really just someone like citing precedent, and that's what the non-battle anime are like. And I mean, I'm watching Bakuman right now, and it's interesting. I'm not as big into that stuff as Tim is, but I really do like the slice of life stuff, and I didn't used to, but Tim kind of got me onto watching a bunch of them. I think the Trojan Horse was Little Witch Academia. I watched that, you know, and I was like, this is really good. It's by Trigger, and Trigger does animation that is appealing to Westerners. And then I watched that, and then I started getting into like K-On! And Laid Back Camp and Asobi Asobase and Umaru-chan and stuff like that. And like, oh man, I really want to do a story like that, but with our characters. How can we do that? And so we came up together with Common Academy, and now we get to do that kind of story, and it's going to be fun.
I'll tell you, so from my perspective, I'll tell you how good the premise is. When he submitted that to me in the webtoons format, we hadn't talked about it. I was just like, hey, on this week, I'm going to have free time to work on the webtoons because we're going to be between volumes. And that's typically where, instead of doing pages every day, I do webtoons every day. And that'll, you know, let's say I do it for 10 days. That's 10 weeks worth of material. He just sent the script in, and it was like Common Academy. And I'm like, what the crap? And I was about to write him back and be like, we don't do parallel worlds. Like, this doesn't make any sense. But I kept on reading the script, and I got to the end, and I was like, oh, that's how he pulled it off. That's pretty great. So I was impressed. You know, a lot of times we talk about stuff together, but this was one time where I was completely blind to the idea. So when he pitched it, I was like, no, I think 100% we should definitely go in this direction. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what people think about it, because it's going to be a lot of fun. It is definitely going to be more of a slice of life type story than what people are used to.
It looks really
sounds
cute.
Interesting.
I'm looking forward to it. I've been enjoying the webtoons.
It's free.
So the first year of
And
webtoons, and it's free. You've got nothing to lose except your time and maybe your brain cells. But the first year of the webtoons, we are going to collect those in print. A few people have asked us if we're going to do that, and we are going to put them in a hardcover. I'm petitioning to call it Common America Gaiden, because that's what the series is. It's a bunch of side stories, and that's what Gaiden means. And you know, we're all a bunch of weebs, but we'll see. But that's the first cycle of the Common America webtoon is just these side stories, these little extra adventures with the characters that, you know, aren't necessarily vital to the narrative, but they get you to understand the characters a bit more. And we do reference some of them in the main series in a way that's, you know, intuitive. But they're just little extras that we can do. And we put those out in a book. We're going to have some extra bonus stories in the print edition that's not going to be on the website. So yeah, that's where we get you. That's where we get you. And those will be in there for the people who want to pick up the print edition of Common America Gaiden and have all those stories in print to go on the shelf with all their other hardcovers. And then Common Academy is going to be the next cycle of the web series. It's to be its own thing.
Very cool. I love this picture.
She's like, give me your pizza, Mark.
No, this is her.
14.
No, this is where she's like, okay, I guess you are my little pog champ. Come here.
Aww.
Cheeks. Oh, you did pull up all the racing queens.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
the Racing
did.
Queens are really, really cool.
They are
Yeah,
very
The
cool.
Misha one, Tim.
Yasone. So, here's a funny behind the scenes story. So, Yasone, in the first key visual art for Common Academy, he made a mistake. He drew Marmot Maiden instead of Siggy. And I said, hey, it turned out really good, but the sixth character is not Marmot Maiden, it's Siggy. And he's like, I apologize. I was too over enthusiastic and I drew her by accident. I didn't even realize it. Like, hold on, I'm gonna go ahead and draw Siggy into there, and he did. And I said, the funny thing is that the reason I found you was because he had done this art where he drew Mako from Kill la Kill as Squirrel Girl. And that's how I found out about him. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I saw that he was available for work, and I told him that, and he said, oh, that's so funny. He's like, I really wanted to draw this character. I said, well, I'm kind of not surprised that you did, because you had drawn a character who in a way inspired her design. So it all came full circle.
Yosone was talking about Marmot Maiden, the drawing that he did, of his own volition for the concept art of Common Academy. And he's actually going into the design process that he based her posture off of Noodle from the Gorillas, because Noodle has this way of standing where she has like her feet like tilted to the side, so she's like standing on the sides of her feet, like with her toes up. Mm-hmm. And so he drew Marmot Maiden standing like that, and he based it off of Noodle. And I didn't get it at first. It's like, you mean she's like a noodle, like one of those like tube men that flail around outside of a car dealership? He's like, no, it's Noodle from the Gorillas. See? And then he posted like the art that he based it off of. So it's like he was putting a lot of like thought and care into the concept art of Marmot Maiden, which he was just because he liked the character.
That's pretty awesome.
I think he likes drawing cute things, because I noticed that. All the characters look great, but he put a lot of attention to her. Like he even though she hasn't been in much material, I think to him she's like a fleshed out character, reminiscent of one that he's kind of come up with in his head already.
Oh no, we should ask her what her storyline is, because shit if I know.
Someone had asked us what the origin of isotestosterone is, and I was like, we have like 3 ideas in our heads, but we haven't really thought of like which one we're gonna choose. They're all pretty good, but it's like, I don't know. He just exists right now. But somewhere in his past, we're gonna just dredge that up at some point and hammer it out.
More feet.
Not quite. This is like shoes, right? Isn't shoes like a separate fetish?
Are shoes even do people have shoe fetishes?
I think they do.
They do.
It's the internet, Dean. There's like a fetish for everything.
There's a fetish for everything.
I mean, that's true. I've just never... I don't know. I think shoes must just get outshone by feet. But...
I'll tell you a weird one. Okay, so when we changed the costume to be a skirt, that was also intentional, because for several reasons. One of them won't be revealed until like later on, but obviously it's to show that she grows as a character, and as she grows as a character, her fashion will change. And you also wrap into the fact that it was actually Vicki who designed the costume. So in a way, it's, even though she's quote unquote out of the picture from their lives momentarily, she's still in the picture because she has that remnant there. So we changed the skirt, we changed it into a skirt, and people were like, oh, that's better because it's that thigh to skirt ratio. And I was like, what are you talking about? And there's apparently like for the Japanese, there's a calculation in terms of like how high the stocking needs to be compared to how low or how the skirt is. I was like, I did not need to know that. Like, that was information that I honestly don't care about. But the problem is that now when I'm watching like TV shows and anime and stuff, I'm like, good lord, now I can't help but not see it. Like, okay, so like the girl has a skirt that goes down past the knee, but it means that like her socks can only go up to her ankle. Like, there's all these weird ratios and stuff. So it's like the things that part of me wishes I didn't know.
I know I keep saying the art's nice, but this is a really, really cool shot.
Yeah, that's Kafun. He's another guy, I think besides Gyason, he's the other artist that is almost on a constant payroll. Like, just pay them to do things. But his art is phenomenal, and he's quick. Like, if I tell him that we need something within 24 hours, like, he'll do it. We did that piece today that was for Carly's birthday, for Common America's birthday on July 4th. And I think I just gave him the instructions like 2 days ago. And I mean, he's sitting on a list of commissions that are like deep. And he just hammered that one out. He's early. I told him we don't need it until Monday. And he's like, oh, I got it done today. And I was like, all right. And I looked at it and I was like, dear God. And he even did like wallpaper where it's like the three animals like marching in the background. Like stuff like that I didn't tell him to do. Even for this shot, I said, we just need an end sheet. So we need a double-sided 2-page spread. And he came up with all that stuff in the background. Like,
yeah, that really does add like a whole nother, like, I guess, like layer to the image. I like the background.
Yeah, and one thing that we've done is, I don't know if we mentioned this on the stream, but I think that 99% of all of our artists now are all from Japan, and then the remaining 1% are from some South American countries and the Philippines.
Oh.
The Japanese artists are never late. They're always on time. And if they're not on time, they're always early.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of success. We like working with them because their rates are really good. They're very professional. They're very, very helpful.
They're so nice on Twitter.
They're so nice to talk to.
It's like, I wish I could just be on Japanese Twitter. It's a totally different experience from Western Twitter. Everyone
Western Twitter is AIDS.
Oh, no, yeah, it's like they only go on Twitter to talk about the things they like, and every Japanese person says good morning on Twitter. Every day. It's like, so 3 o'clock and our time is 5 a.m. Tokyo time. So right around 3 or 4 o'clock, we just start seeing on our timeline, Ohayo gozaimasu, Ohayo gozaimasu. All the Japanese people so happy to greet all their wonderful friends on social media and have a great day. It's like, jeez. I want to live in your parallel universe.
We follow a lot of them, and some of them we're in like DM group, little DM groups, but the DM rooms are very positive. It's just like, I went to the store today and bought fish. Yay, that looks delicious. I am washing my car. It is very hot outside. It's so polite. It's like the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I've never seen a DM group that wasn't just drama-filled nonsense.
Now, Afghanistan Twitter, man, that is the bomb.
It's like a war zone in there.
Yeah.
It's like, you'd be surprised. Like, no, Afghanistan Twitter is nothing but like soccer talk. Like, that's all they want to talk about.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure.
I'm in CG Twitter. It's cancer. Yeah.
A computer graphics Twitter, like
yeah, computer graphics.
Computer graphics Twitter.
Did you say GIF? I thought you meant GIF. Excuse me.
We're not talking about peanut butter.
Yeah, Japanese Twitter is. No, Japanese Twitter is it's a cultural thing. Is that if you have a grievance, you don't voice it, you just bottle it up inside until you commit suicide. But that's another thing. But they don't go on social media to just piss and moan and vent and be cruel and mean and troll other people. There's maybe a few Japanese people who do that, but by and large they don't. They use social media as it was intended to be a pleasant escape and to talk about the things that they enjoy. And so we have the Japanese Common America account, and I think I spend more time on that than I do on my personal account because it's just so much more pleasant than the Japanese account. Everyone's just so nice. And there's this really strange thing about Japanese etiquette on Twitter that I've discovered is that they're so polite that they don't want to make anyone feel like they're obligated to reply to them. So if you're having a conversation, like you post a piece of art and you say, thank you for the art, instead of replying to you, in their own account, they'll make a separate tweet saying, I'm so glad that they enjoyed my art. I was very happy to make it. And that way, if you see it, you can reply to it and say like, oh, it was wonderful, thank you. And if you don't see it, it's okay, because you weren't obligated to see it. It's this very, I don't know, I don't know. It's so slight and nuanced that they do it that way, but it's also very polite because they don't want to ever make anyone feel like they're on the spot and have to reply. It's almost like it's rude to directly reply to someone in Japanese Twitter, but that's the way they are. They handle it with such nuance and kid gloves, whereas in America and Western Twitter, we're just like, fuck you, you're a racist, I hate you, I hope you die. You know? We're just so awful to each other all the time.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm pretty glad I'm not on Twitter. I lie because I'm not glad, but that's my cope. That's
Yeah, he came back he made it for a whole 12 hours.
Well, it was okay. Let me tell you guys. Like, Twitter had like reinstated 2 of my accounts because I like sent in like an appeal, and I was like, hey, I admitted fault. I was like, hey, I'm sorry for breaking your guys' rules. But I'd really just like to follow various online communities. And they were like, yeah, that sounds good. And then like a whole like 12 hours later, they were like, yeah, we take it back. I was like, but what? But I didn't. But
You didn't even tweet. I
made
don't
like
even know.
2 tweets and they were not offensive.
Have you tried coming back again? A lot. So it was weird. It's the only time that I thought a pop culture meme actually made perfect sense. It was after Elon Musk's acquisition or reported acquisition of Twitter. A lot of our friends were like, hey, my account came back. How crazy is this? And so they came back again, and they were it was like that meme of like, when your mutuals come back to Twitter after years of being gone. And it's like that scene from Avengers Endgame where all the people are coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
And so, because I was like, oh man, I was telling Mark, I was like, that guy's back. He's back. She's back. That's so great. I was wondering, I was like, you tried like logging back in and being like, hey, I'm reinstated.
I checked a couple. I haven't checked because I mean there's like 4. But like I'll check them. I'll check, but I don't think so.
I think they're doing that because
they're scared.
You know, well, Twitter had reported a certain number of like bots, accounts, right?
Yeah.
And it turns out that there are a lot more bot accounts than Twitter accounted for in their filings.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're letting real people back onto Twitter that they have previously suspended or banned to raise up the number of real people on Twitter versus bots.
Yeah,
that's my theory.
Yeah, no, that was exactly why. But then like it was like the same day that Elon Musk actually got Twitter. And that's when they were like, haha, we don't actually need you anymore.
Oh no. The timing couldn't be worse.
Yeah, I mean that's not why, but that's just a funny way of thinking about it. Or maybe it is why. I mean, I don't know.
In this picture and in the one before, you bring up Hair Trigger. So Hair Trigger is, I was going to mention this before with the one where you said, hey, I like this cover, where it had like the booby shot or whatever. Hair Trigger is the one character who is supposed to be very close to a femme fatale. Like, she is supposed to be kind of like that Cold War, Eastern European, almost like a honeypot. So she's the one character where we explain why she dresses like in continuity, where it's like, no, she's supposed to, the way I told the model sheet designer's Presia, and I think she lives in Poland, but I told her that she's supposed to exemplify like the peak Eastern European beauty. Like, she's the tallest person. If in that world, she's supposed to be the 10 out of 10. Like, she's supposed to be the person who people look up to, like just a kind of a glamour individual, very, very high society. So that's just a little tidbit for people who might be paying attention in the chat. So she's like supposed to be the standout character.
Yeah, it's like General Armstrong's sister.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, she's a tough cookie. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah. Do you guys like? Okay, just since I brought it up, which one's better, Full Metal Alchemist or Brotherhood?
I don't like either of them.
What?
I don't like them at all. I tried watching like 2 episodes. I was like, this is not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I couldn't get into that. There's this. They just would do the same joke over and over again, where someone would call the one guy short, and then he just like, I'm not short, wah! And he'd do like a super deformed head thing, and it's just like that joke over and over again. And they
don't
I
hate
don't
me,
know,
Dean.
there's repetition.
I generally don't like shonen as a genre. It's what Mark said. A
This
lot of it's
stream's over.
repetitious.
This is it. This is it.
There's they all have like a tournament arc built in somewhere.
You're a racist. I hate you.
You just roboted Mark, and I know you didn't hear it, so it sounded really funny.
It
Because it sounded like you just like did a racial slur.
Maybe I did, Tim. How do you know?
No, okay. Well, like, you know, Full Metal Alchemist is like that, but you should give Brotherhood a shot. It's actually really good.
So when I visited Japan in 2005, I wanted to see a movie, any movie, and the only one that was playing when I was in Akihabara was the Full Metal Alchemist movie, the Shambhala one.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen the TV series at the time, so I really had no idea what was going on in the movie. That was a movie about alternate universes, so that just really didn't make things easy to understand.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like my memory of Full Metal Alchemist, is that I went to see it in the theater. And that was also how I found out that in Japan you have assigned seating when you go to see the movies, and that if you sit in the wrong seat, don't do that.
Yeah. We have assigned seatings in movie seats now. Now when like you buy your ticket, like pre-order it, you like.
Oh yeah, now you do, but in 2005 you didn't. In 2005 it was a free-for-all in America, and they'd already gotten, you know, the whole assigned seating thing was that you had to sit where your ticket told you to sit, and I didn't realize that at the time, so I was very embarrassed.
Wait, do
like
they
that in
choose? Do they choose like their seats, or does it choose for them?
For me, I think they just assigned me because I was a
Because he didn't know he had to
They
pick
just
one.
wanted me to go away.
This stupid American.
That's
Put him in the nosebleed section.
That's great.
That's great. Mark's white. Mark thinks he's white, even though he's Italian. That's hilarious.
Italian's white, right?
Yeah, it's about as white as Greek, meaning not white at all.
What are you talking about? Like Italian bread? That's white bread. So
yeah, it's Subway.
Yeah, that translates the same, right? That's how that works.
Sure.
The funny thing, though, is that Mark is Italian, but he's not Catholic.
My dad's Catholic, so it's
I
weird.
guess that counts.
My dad was Catholic and my mom was Methodist, and I was raised neither.
They weren't even baptized.
No, I wasn't. It was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Mark will figure his shit out.
I was baptized Protestant and raised Catholic.
My mom's
Oh,
Irish
okay.
and she's
How
Protestant.
Irish is that?
It still counts, though, in the Catholic
Yeah.
Church. Protestant baptism still count. Legit.
My mom didn't like the Catholic chaplain.
Oh.
So
Our Catholic chaplain is a badass. He's director of the cathedral, and he goes to the Air Force Base. He's a young guy too.
Huh. My mom, she's Irish, but she raised us Protestant.
Oh, I thought you were a.
No, that's my dad.
I thought you were black.
So I was gonna say something, and I had to measure my words. Where I was like, I don't want to sound offensive.
I thought you were a terrorist. I know what you were gonna say.
So at first I thought I had heard that you were Jewish, and then I heard that you were making fun of Jewish people on some streams, like in good humor. I was like, so I don't think he's Jewish. And then I was like, but then I think he's Muslim. And I was like, but what if I say that and he's not Muslim? Like,
no,
oh
my
gosh,
dad.
and it's like doubly offensive.
Yeah. So, my dad, my dad's from Jordan. He's Muslim, and
okay.
yeah. But my mom, she's white. She's super white, Irish, and she's Protestant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know your.
And then
backstory.
people called me Jewish, just because I'm Arab, and so yeah.
and your fair skin is probably what it boils down to.
I'm like Jordan Lebanese, they're like pretty like they're on the lighter skin tone.
You're the kind of guy that would just like throw Indiana Jones into a pit of vipers and push a stone over top of the portal and leave him to die. Okay, you're one of
Yes,
those.
he is. Yes, he is.
But
He'd probably kill him first before he dumped him into the pit.
Probably take his goats for some fun time. But anyways, yeah, let's just change the topic.
That went a little too far. Dean.
You're like, let's change the
It's
topic.
getting close. It's getting
And-
close to the
And
end.
here-
Yeah,
here's a
Dean-
here's a
Dean's
picture
getting,
that's totally not political at all.
Dean's getting totally inappropriate. It's almost time to stop.
What? That goat's my girlfriend. Anyways, yeah, this is a nice photo. Once again, nice photo.
Thank you.
It's not too late to give your soul to Christ, Dean.
I don't think he wants it anymore after that comment.
Jesus loves you, Dean. He'll take you as you are.
And then Kimiko.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aw, Kimiko.
There is a slight whenever we send this model to artists, there is a slight change. I don't know why, but Precia made her eyes yellow or gold. I mean, they should be brown, but I mean, she looks great, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, it's a cool model and style.
Jordanese is the Japanese of the Middle East.
It's Jordanian, just so you know.
I'm not familiar with Jordan. I'm familiar with like the United Arab Emirates, the area.
Yeah,
Dubai.
I'm not familiar with any of it. But Jordan, it's like it borders Israel.
You no.
Jordan. I was like, Mark, restrain yourself. You're not allowed to joke about some of these
Jordan,
things.
why are your shoes so expensive? Explain yourself.
But yeah, so it's like Lebanon, Israel area.
Oh, what's
Lebanon, QAnon.
Yeah, it
whatever.
borders Israel and Egypt.
What's
Yeah.
freaking funny is that so like if you ever been to Disney World, you have like Epcot, and it's like here are like the 7 countries that represent generally the world, and they chose Morocco. And I'm like, where the hell is Morocco? That's like next to Tunisia. Where's Tunisia? I don't know where that is.
I've never heard of Tunisia.
The only thing I learned from the Morocco pavilion in Epcot was one, Mediterranean food is good, and I don't even know if Morocco is considered Mediterranean, but
Loosely.
It's on the
kind of.
water.
and everyone wears fezzes. So whenever I saw like Morocco mole on with Secret Squirrel, I was like, oh, that's what Morocco's known for. Everyone wears fezzes.
It's known for its moles.
It's known for its moles. It's known for its cute moles that hang out with squirrels.
Yeah, that's literally like that's Morocco's thing.
Yeah,
You know, the country.
Fez.
Yeah.
the fez.
Casablanca. Morocco.
I've never seen that movie. Just like
Oh.
Top Gun.
Wait, you've never seen Casablanca? That's
No, I've
That's
never
a
That's
seen.
movie
right.
I've seen.
Dean hasn't seen it either.
no,
I've
I
never
have
seen-
because they made us watch it at school.
I've never seen Citizen Kane. Never seen Casablanca. Never seen Top Gun. If people are late to the stream, they're like, did he just put the 3 movies in one category? Citizen Kane, Top Gun, and Casablanca. So,
Yeah.
there's the movies.
Yeah, haven't you seen Citizen Kane? Rosebud was the name of his like Falcon jet.
Yeah, that was his F-15. F-15 Rosebud.
I thought it was Citizen King was overrated.
I've never. That's the one out of those 3 movies I haven't seen, which is weird because usually it would be any of them that are mentioned.
If you want to see the abridged version of Citizen Kane, just watch the Real Ghostbusters cartoon episode where they make fun of it. But it was funny because I had watched that cartoon. I didn't even know what they were referencing. And in high school, I forgot, but there was one day where we were supposed to watch it, and we couldn't for some reason. I think the VCR was broken. And so our teacher just basically gave us a summary of the movie. And I was like, oh, so it's like that episode of The Real Ghostbusters. So I was like, oh, it's pretty accurate then.
Oh, I just watched that movie in 22 minutes when I was 6 years old, and I got the gist of it. Great.
Yeah. Rosebud.
But we've kind of come full circle back to Top Gun.
We
Somehow.
have.
We
Back
have.
to Top Gun.
Yeah.
And RoboCop too.
Yeah, RoboCop's cool.
No, I meant RoboCop 2, the sequel.
Oh yeah, that's the one where he fights the stop motion monster at the end. That's played by
Yeah, it
Tom
rips
Noonan.
its brain out.
Yeah.
Yeah, stop motion's always good.
Yep. I can't
I
wait for you
watched
guys
that
to watch
too.
that. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've never seen RoboCop.
Oh man, you're gonna be so pumped after you watch that movie. Like,
And then you're going to find out there's nothing good RoboCop after that.
Just stop right there, Dean, and don't watch anything after RoboCop. Maybe RoboCop 2 if you're feeling bored one night, but don't go beyond that.
Yeah,
RoboCop 2's got Peter Weller in it, and even though it's not as good, it's got Phil Tippett stop motion, it's got Tom Noonan, it's got...
Mark, he doesn't know who any of those people are.
Yeah. I know, because he's Jordanian and he doesn't even know where he is right now, but still.
He wears sandals everywhere, Mark.
With socks.
Oh, the socks, yeah.
That's the Californian in me. The socks part is the Californian.
Yeah, maybe watch RoboCop 2. When you get to RoboCop 3, you've gone too far. If you're watching RoboCop the animated series or RoboCop Alpha Commando, then you've really gone too far.
Yeah,
and there's no turning back.
You stepped into the abyss. Yeah.
But once you watch RoboCop, I'm pretty sure you've never done drugs, Dean. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be the equivalent of doing like crack, and you're just going to be so pumped. Like,
oh yeah, I guess now I can finally quit crack.
Yeah, just watch RoboCop all the time.
You can go to the DMV and ask them to shoot you in the dick. It'll be great.
Thank you guys so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having us on. It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad to see that you guys are restarting the program, so we look forward to some more of your show.
We look forward to it too.
I asked Vicki to ask you guys to come on. It wasn't really to promote you guys' book. It was more so I can talk to you guys.
Yeah.
That was it.
The book was secondary.
The book was secondary.
Did you needed some sane people to talk to because you picked the wrong people to talk to?
Oh yeah, no. That's if I wanted sane people to talk to, I would talk to myself.
Maybe I'd shoot you in the dick if I didn't think it was going to give you a boner.
Too late. I already have one. Anyways, think about that goat. But
the link to the Kickstarter and the IGG for Black Ops X Common America X Soulfinder is in the description. I just thought I'd get that out there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, and thank you. I have not been looking at the chat, but the people in there, thank you very much for showing up. This has been a lot of fun. Yeah, you guys have 30-something days more to go, so there's still plenty of time to pre-order. But we're doing really great as we are right now. So I honestly haven't even been looking at our numbers, but I just know that we're right on track. And like I said earlier on in the episode, I already got the proofs in for Volume 6, so we're already going to start on Volume 7 here within the next week. So we're chugging right along. So we're glad for anyone who's joined for the ride, and we look forward to hearing from you guys in terms of how you like the books when they come out.
The backer number goes up every time.
Yeah, I was actually just I just want to say one last thing. Like the last time we talked, we were talking about how like maybe you should slow down. But nope, you're just like you're like 2 books ahead, 3 books ahead, which is awesome though.
I think so. It's a bit deceiving because I do slow down, but the reason I slow down is because we are ahead. So if I do need to take time off, I can. Like for example, right now we're having the siding on our house replaced. So I've had to take quite a lot of time off to make sure that the contractors and the construction workers are doing everything properly and I can be there to help them. But I can afford to do that because essentially like we're already starting on the spring stuff. So I'm like, okay, if I need to take like 3 days off, it's no big deal. So I have been doing that.
We had the Black Ops Soulfinder crossover. We had that done, like back in January.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm always trying to make sure that I don't spoil anything because I've seen comics 2 volumes ahead from what everybody else has seen. People have just read Common America 5, and I've read the Black Ops comics and the Volume 6, and I'm writing Volume 7. So I have to make sure, I have to be very careful not to spoil things for other people because I'm, 2 volumes ahead from what everybody else is reading. But that's how we, keep on time.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Being on time is good.
I think so.
Yeah.
I do too.
The Europeans think so too. So
which is why we started our stream on time today.
For people who are wondering, if we were a little bit late by like 2 minutes, that was because of Mark and me, maybe, I think.
It wasn't me for once.
It was not Dean, I can tell you that.
It wasn't Dean.
For once.
Yeah. My cat was eating my Little Caesars pizza, and I had to fight him off for it.
Aw, that's
Goblin. Goblin was gobbling that pizza.
Yeah, give Goblin scratchies for me.
Licking my pepperoni.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
It's
I've
not even a
definitely
goat,
been
Mark.
there.
Jeez.
Oh.
All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks
Good
so
night,
much for
everyone.
showing up. Make sure to back Black Ops X Soulfinder X Common America.
Yeah,
Did I get
that'll do, Dean.
That's
Okay.
fine.
you got all three of them in there. It's all right.
yes?
Woohoo!
X Iron Man.
Excellent.
All right. Bye, guys.
Later.
See ya.